We're being broadcast today on wehow.com and regionally on WHCI TV Channel 5, as well as on Facebook on several local sites, including Neighbors and Friends and the Political Forum. As we turn the calendar toward Election Day, we have lots of questions for our guest today, Essie Labrot, who is the town clerk for West Hartford. She oversees many aspects of the voting process and, most importantly, perhaps, absentee ballots. We'll be talking to Essie in depth about that process as we close in on Election Day. But first, Ronnie and I, we've got a lot to cover here, and we've got a very short show. So we've got about 30 minutes to talk about it. And a lot has happened over the last year, and we're going to spend a little time talking about that. Number one, redistricting.
Absolutely. So one of the things that a lot of people need to be aware of is if you voted in the primary over the summer, you may know that you had to go to a different location to vote. But if you didn't vote in a primary, you may be surprised at this election that your polling place has changed. And the reason that the polling place has changed is not because the town of West Hartford wanted to do it, but it actually goes back to the 2020 census and the need to realign the congressional districts to make sure that there is an even number of people, or as close as possible to an even number of people, in each of the statewide districts. And then a bipartisan committee from the General Assembly got together and reworked all of the state Senate and state House districts. The state Senate district for West Hartford wasn't impacted, but actually our state House districts are impacted.
Yeah, very much impacted, which you're going to see on the ballot. So I think it's really important to talk about this because it's confusing. And when it's explained, it's really easy to understand. But for somebody who's used to voting at Sedgwick and now realizing they have to go up to Bugby, or down to Bugby, or over to Bugby, and they're saying, why did this happen? And then the other piece of it is, and I always use this exact same quote, she's running unopposed, is, how come I can't vote for Jillian Gilchrist, is the other quote I use, because you may be in a district now, here in town you see her signs, but the way the districts are laid out, you don't reside, and your voting area is not Jillian's, it might be somebody else's. So we're going to spend a little time on that. So Jen, could we bring up the orange card? Okay, there we go. Okay, so you received in the mail a week and a half ago? 10 days ago?
I guess about a week and a half ago.
An orange card that shows you where your polling location is. So please, if you put your mail in a bin or something when it arrives, please go through, look at it, put it on the fridge. It's going to save you aggravation on Election Day, and you don't want aggravation. It tells you where to vote. That was my personal one. I vote at Bugby now. I used to vote at Sedgwick. That's why I use those two examples.
And I actually used to vote at Connors, and right? Now I vote at Charter Oak. So and I have not changed the district that I'm in. I think you changed your district.
No, I'm still in the 7th.
Okay.
Which is the next slide. Let's bring up, because the next slide we're going to need some time with it, Jen. Could we bring up the color slide?
Yeah, it's coming up.
There we go. Okay, so I'm sorry for the eye chart, folks, but what this is this is the newly laid out town district map. And you'll see there are 8 formal districts. However, there are 2 districts that are split. District 1 is now 2 sections, 1-1 and 1-2, and District 4 is 4-1 and 4-2. So we used to be 9 districts, but again, because of population movement, we're now down to 8 districts. So if you look, as you look at this map, look at where you live, your polling place is going to be somewhere within your district. My area, if you look, and I don't really have a pointer, but if you look all the way on the left, it looks like a nose at the bottom left. I live at the very bottom of that nose, and that area used to encompass part of what you now see as the 6th district, and now it doesn't. We've moved north. We've now absorbed a big chunk of the 8th district, and the 9th district now no longer exists. Does that make sense, or am I just making it too complicated here?
Well, no, that actually does make sense. Okay. But what also happened is West Hartford used to have 3 state representatives, the 18th, 19th, and 20th district. Now there's a little piece, what's now District 1-1 on that chart, that is actually represented by Bobby Gibson, right, who also represents Bloomfield and part of Hartford, I think. And then District 4-1 in the very southeastern corner of West Hartford, which used to be Kate Farrar's district, is now represented by Ed Vargas from Hartford. So anybody who is in District 1, whether it's 1-1 or 1-2, they actually go to the same polling place, but there's 2 lines there, and you don't have to worry about whether you're -1 or -2. You'll be advised where to go when you get to your polling place. You just need to know which polling place to go to. But you might be surprised if you're in District 1-1 that actually you can't vote for Jillian Gilchrist because she's not your representative anymore, or she won't be after Election Day. Bobby Gibson, who's also running unopposed, will be your representative no matter who you vote for. And same thing with District 4-1. Kate Farrar will no longer be your representative. It will be, or her opponent won't be your representative either. It will be Ed Vargas, who is also running unopposed.
So two new reps came into our area, and then Kate Farrar, her area expanded south into Newington.
Into Newington, right. So she's got about 40% of her district actually is in Newington.
And she is running in a contested race, as we know.
Correct.
So that's the way it is. So this slide, maybe Jen, can we put it up one more time just so people can take a look at it? If they're taping the show, they can pause it, that sort of thing. But it's important to understand. What I'd hate to see, and I'll speak for Ronnie and Essie on this one too, is any frustration or any disillusioned voter showing up at the wrong poll, because it did happen in August for primary. I witnessed it where somebody showed up and said, "Oh, I don't vote here anymore." Okay, and they got in their car and they drove up to the next place. So
well, you hope they drove to the next place. You hope they didn't
that's
decide.
That's the key.
Yeah,
it's like,
forget it, I'm going home.
Yeah, so it's really important. So that's number 2. And again, we're going to get to Essie here. These are more ROV type functions, but just due to the very short duration of the show, we just wanted to keep it simple. The last thing is, I'm going to show you here, but Jen can put up, but there are 10 ballots for the town. Do I have that right?
Yes, there
Yes,
is.
because the 1-1 and the 4-1, yeah.
Yes.
There are 10 separate ballots for the town. So she put up the ballot. She's put up 1-1, which is Vargas's, right? Vargas's district? No.
Gibson.
I'm
Bobby
sorry,
Gibson.
Gibson's district. Thank you, Ron. This is why I have Ronnie on the show, because I don't know what I'm doing here. So, but what I want to draw your attention to is the right-hand side of this ballot. There is a ballot initiative. And this is, I'm going to have Essie talk a little bit about, and I don't think we're allowed to advocate for or against on air, but Essie, give us a little bit, because this is really critical that people are aware of it and understand what the ballot initiative is. So, Essie.
So basically, it is where the voter will get to choose if they feel that the state constitution should be open to allow for early voting. Now, it does not specify what kind of early voting it is. It just leaves it open. Do you believe that we should have early voting in the state of Connecticut? Yes or no? Now, if it does pass, then this will go to the legislature, and the legislature will decide what that early voting might look like. I have heard from former Secretary of State Merrill and Senator Blumenthal that their idea of what they were thinking is early voting in person by tabulator a few days before, 3 to 5 days before, perhaps. Other legislators may have some different ideas on what it might look like. Also, there's been some discussion about allowing for mail-in balloting, no excuse balloting, but will all be decided at the legislature. It will not be something, so you won't know in November what it's going to look like until all the session starts and all the different proposals come forward, and I'm sure there's going to be a real lively and healthy debate on the pros and cons of each.
That's if this passes.
If this does pass. If it doesn't pass, then again they have to go back to the drawing board and make another attempt. This is the second time that it went to ballot, and the first time it failed. Some believe that it failed because it wasn't quite clear what you were voting for.
Right.
So I think there was a lot of good publicity about what the question really means. And I know this will probably spur some other questions. Well, I don't want to vote for something if I don't know what it's going to look like. But these suggestions will come through the legislature. There'll be public hearings. There'll be a lot of input from everybody on early voting. And I'm sure if it does pass, that it'll be a really interesting time to take a look at the different options.
Well,
And if it doesn't pass, then we'll go back.
And two points I want to make. Number one, yeah, the thing I like about it is it's very clear in the description. So even somebody who is not well versed on this important initiative, it says here that what we're doing is we're giving the power to the legislature to craft sensible
Right.
legislation.
Can you read that word for word?
So,
Can you read it?
I
I can read it if you can't.
Yeah, let's have you do it, Ronnie.
It says, shall the Constitution of the state be amended to permit the General Assembly to provide for early voting? And that's all it says.
So
And
it's
you
very
vote
clear.
yes or no.
And then the second piece, really, Essie, is not for you. You know, the question I'm tempted to ask you, but you're not the right person. So I'm excited because this is going to set up another show where we're going to bring in
She's always the right
state
person.
reps and the state and Derek to talk about what committee is going to be handling this, what ideas are being
It
floated,
usually
that
comes
sort of
through
thing.
a GAE government
Right.
election, so that's probably
Yep.
where it would start, is my guess. And I know our Town Clerks Association has been very active and working with the legislature on any type of proposals that affect elections. So I've always been very involved in that. And in terms of the different types of early voting, if it is early voting by tabulator, who's going to do it? What office
you're
will
gonna
be,
do it, Essie.
will be
You're gonna do
managing it? Where's the funding going to come from? So it's all going to be very interesting.
All right. Well,
I was,
sorry.
I was
Yep.
just going to say, so Connecticut is one of only 4 states that actually doesn't have some form
Right.
of early voting. I was in South Carolina just a week and a half ago, and they were having early voting going on there already. They actually had curbside voting, which I thought was very interesting. And we walked by the library in Charleston, and there were all these signs, voting here today, Monday through Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I don't know when it started, but this was, at least 10 days before the election that it was going on already.
That's the other thing. Every state does it a little bit
Right,
differently.
right.
And a lot of states have election centers, or they're doing county elections, which is very different from the way Connecticut manages its elections. And when people see on the news, oh, they've been voting for 30 days, they can't assume that that's the way we would do it if we move forward with early voting.
Right,
Connecticut will pick out the most appropriate for for their residents.
So, Jen, I'm going to ask you. Let's put up number 1 again because I made the Jillian comment. So if you look, take a look at the column for state representative. It's Bobby Gibson. You don't see Jillian's name there. So if 2 years ago, if you lived in the 1-1 area where you saw on the other map, you would have seen Jillian on there. So there's going to be a little bit of confusion, but hopefully this helps. And then one other suggestion is you can go online. It's a very easy Google search. These are all sample ballots. So there we go. These are all sample ballots. And I just went online and I typed in Connecticut sample ballot 2022 election, and I was able to get all 10 of them. So you can take a look, and then you can look by address where you are within the district and find out who the people are that you're going to vote for. But really, the only changes I think really are state representative, right? There's not others that are
Right, and all of West Hartford is in the 5th
Right.
State Senate District, represented by Derek Slapp, who is not running, who has no opposition, so he will be.
And I'd look at probate, Owen Egan, but probate, he's running unopposed, and he covers the whole town as well. So that was the only other one I wasn't clear on. So, okay, so.
You also do get to vote for registrars of voters.
Yes.
But
yes.
there's one running from each party. I believe you vote for one, but both of them are going to be elected because there is a registrar from each party.
Right.
Right, gotcha, okay. Oh, here it is, yep, okay, yep. So Elizabeth Rousseau against, and Beth Kyle, but they both run, so both
They
will
both
be
run,
elected.
you do
Yep,
only
both will
get to
be elected.
vote for one of them,
Right.
but they're both
But
going to
both will
win.
be elected,
Yes.
yeah. So, all right, so we got that out of the way. Essie, let's talk a little bit about Election Day hours. What time can I vote? What hours can I
6
vote?
a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay.
And the last day for absentee balloting is Monday. So if anyone needs one, I would recommend coming in person. I would not rely on the mail for sending in an application and us mailing it out.
So let me ask you, before we move beyond hours, too far beyond the hours of when we're voting. It's 7:45, I arrive at Charter Oak to vote, and there's a half-hour long line at Charter Oak. Do you know if I'll get to vote? I would get to vote, right? They'll let you in. If you're in the line, you're going to get to
7:45
vote.
p.m.
Yeah,
Okay.
PM, sorry.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, I should have clarified PM.
Yes,
That wasn't
I was
confusing.
thinking
I know you're looking at me, I'm like, uh-oh, am I asking the wrong question
I know
here?
you're a morning person, so, you know, you
Yeah,
could be
usually
there
by
at
7:45, I'm asleep at night, so anyway. So, all right, so let's talk a little bit. So people can still vote by absentee. You're obviously recommending they walk in, do not mail it at this point because we're cutting it too close. All right, so I've got my absentee ballot, I want to bring it in, when's the absolute last minute? And don't wait till last minute, folks, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. When's the last minute I can bring it in?
Well, we have drop boxes. You can put it in the drop box up until 8 p.m. on Election Day.
And where are the drop boxes?
They are in front of Faxon Library, and there are 2 in front of Town Hall.
Terrific.
So that's the best. And I have to say, I love those drop boxes because they've been great. In the past, we've had a number of ballots coming in late due to the Postal Service, and the drop boxes have really cut down on that. And so I'm really happy about that.
Okay, terrific.
And when you say the front of Town Hall, people get a little confused. It's not where the stairs are facing South Main Street.
It's where the flags
It's where the
are.
flagpoles are.
The flagpoles.
The main doors.
See, I would say that's the back of town. That can be something else we could debate, maybe pass legislation on.
right,
What is the
right.
official front and back of town hall? So basically, pull into the parking lot. It's the side facing the
Right.
police station, and then there's
Right.
the ballot
And
box.
there are cameras. So there
Yes.
are cameras on the drop boxes. They're very secure. I have heard some people being concerned about that, but they worked really well in 2020, and we will be continuing to use them. They are safe, they're secure, and we have cameras. We have multiple people going to pick up ballots, so there's never one person doing it by themselves.
Good.
And it's been great. So.
How often do you do the sweeps?
We go every day. Now with the presidential, when we had 20,000 ballots, we were going a few times a day, but we're able to manage the numbers. The numbers this year are very interesting because there was the political parties mailed out absentee ballot applications. To
But not
thousands.
ballots, let's be clear about that. Applications only.
Applications. So that resulted in a big increase in the number of absentee ballots. So I did get some statistics from prior years, and this year we've issued 4,300 ballots. And in 2014, which was another state election, we only issued 1,743. And in 2018, 2,691. So we're almost double this year compared to the last state election.
I can't, without getting medical on anyone, I can't help but think COVID is definitely a big contributor to the change in the landscape.
Some people, and they expanded the reasons for
Right.
absentee
Right.
voting. It used to be my illness or my disability,
Right.
and they expanded that just to be sickness, and it encompasses either a family member or you're fearful of getting it, or you don't want to go to crowds because you're of COVID or the flu or whatever, and that would qualify you to get an absentee ballot.
So 4,300 so far have voted?
Have been issued, and we have 3,100 returned. So we have about 73% returned right now. Tomorrow, I expect we'll get a few hundred more, Monday more, so it will be very close to that. We usually
past
do about
years?
90%.
That's what I was gonna say, in past years.
88 to 90%
Okay.
in terms of the returned ballots. But the voter turnout will be interesting. In 2020, it was 86% presidential, but in 2018, it was 75%. So that was, and in 2014, it was 56%.
Interesting.
Wow.
Which is really low. So,
No, it's much lower, like last year when it was just a municipal
Municipal.
election.
municipal's
It's
always
always
a
a lot
yes,
lower.
that's in the 30s.
And
That's
primaries
in
are
the 30s.
much lower too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But comparisons of state election to state election is usually pretty good. But I think there's a lot of interest in this one, and people having the ability to vote more by absentee ballot it will probably make a difference. So that's will be interesting to see on election day if that turnout goes over that 70, yeah, anything over 75%, I would think would be good for a state election. So,
Yeah. Well, West Hartford historically has stepped up for elections. I mean, we've been recognized by various organizations for voter turnout. I know the governor's always
We won
happy.
the Democracy Cup, right?
A couple
Yes,
times, right?
yes.
Yeah, yeah. And then, we'll get to the good stuff, Essie. So it's 8:01 p.m. The polls have closed.
8 o'clock.
8:01
not
p.m.
8:01.
I
They
know,
closed at
I'm
8.
saying, I know. It's 8:01, the polls have closed, everyone has voted, we're finished, you've done the final sweep of the absentee ballots. When do the counting this year, when are the absentee ballots going to be counted, when will we know the
They
results?
can start counting them after 10 a.m. in the morning. So
On election day.
On election day.
Oh, okay, good.
So they will be opening them up. They have teams working in the legislative chamber, and they start opening them up at 10 o'clock, and expect to have them run by, the tabulator run by 8 o'clock.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Good, awesome.
And another opportunity that people might not know about, my husband's actually been doing this for a couple of years, is election day registration. So if you are not registered to vote, you can come and vote on election day. It's at town hall this year. You need to make sure you bring proper identification, including proof of where you live. But you can come in and register to vote and issue,
get a ballot
get a
right there.
ballot
Yep.
and vote on
And is
election
that in
day.
the offices here, or?
Is
Room
it at,
400, I believe. Is it
Okay.
room 400? That's
I don't know what room
think.
it's in, but I know it's
Yeah.
here at town hall.
And
And that's from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
to
also.
8 p.m.
Okay.
And we have had election day registration for many years, and it's been very helpful. I see the numbers going down each year, though, so I think that's just once people are registered. And
I
they
feel
can
like-
do registration through DMV now.
Right, right.
Department of Motor Vehicles. And this year, for the first time, we actually have, they just started it a few weeks ago, an absentee ballot portal on the Secretary of State's website, where a voter could go in and get the absentee ballot filled out, and it would provide with their DMV signature on that application, and then it gets downloaded to my office. We upload it, send out the ballot just like that. We don't longer have them.
All right, so let me give you a
mail it.
hypothetical. Somebody goes to Boston University.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been home since September. Absentee ballots weren't available, or if they were, they didn't realize it. They can now, without leaving their dorm room in Boston, at Boston College, they can now
If they have a Connecticut
vote
driver's
entirely
license.
if they have a Connecticut
Yes.
driver's license. That's, folks, that's
It's great.
amazing.
So they can
Yeah.
apply.
Yeah.
That's great.
They can apply.
Right. But
Through the online
more
portal. They still have
direct.
to mail back the.
Do they still have to mail back, or do they do it? No, they do the whole.
No.
That's
Oh, I
what
thought
was
they
trying
have
to
to mail
clarify.
back the
No.
the completed ballot.
Oh, the application, we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
application. Then they get the ballot.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
okay.
ballot
okay.
still
Yeah,
has to be
Thank you for the
mailed back,
clarification.
yes.
Okay, I was thinking you could vote online. I'm
Yes.
like, wow,
no,
that's
no,
a game,
no,
that'd
no,
be
Yeah.
a game
no,
changer.
We haven't gotten to that yet.
So,
No,
no,
So the
okay.
application first.
Okay.
Then we'll see how-
Ronnie, thank you for
But-
saving that segment.
But it's
So-
been going really well because, like you said, a lot of students have been accessing that, and it's a much more direct rather than having them find a stamp. We know how college kids don't know where a stamp is, and so having it electronically mailed, and then that signature, since it's on their driver's license, that is something that's acceptable, and they don't need to mail in any hard copies to our office. So it's a much quicker way of getting that ballot to them.
All right, and I know this is an ROV function, but just in case, do we need to do a last call for poll workers, or you think they're in good shape?
I
that you're hearing?
don't know.
I know they were doing training tonight, which is one of the reasons why we don't have the ROVs here, and then the late hour of the show is the other reason why we don't have the ROVs here, to keep it short. But so, okay, all right. Well, I can find out from them, and I can put the word out locally if they still need a poll worker or two. So hopefully they're in good shape.
They have
so.
information on their website, so I'm sure if there's any need that they would put it out there.
Okay. Any last message before we sign off?
Gee, I just hope everybody gets out there and votes. It's a really important election. Every election matters, and
It seems like, based on what I'm hearing, even nationally with voter registration, it just seems like people are much more engaged now than they were 10 years ago.
Well, there's certainly a lot of advertising that
Oh, my
you
Lord.
can't possibly
Oh.
escape
Twitter,
it.
we
so.
have Instagram, we have Facebook.
Just for that
and-
reason, I'm looking forward to November 9th. So, anyway, but Essie Labrot, thank you so much. You know, you're always full of really important information. We're grateful to have you as a asset here in town, and
Thank you.
we're grateful to have you on the show here. So, thank you. Ronnie, anything you want to cover before we sign off?
Yeah, so just, I guess my final message is, if you don't know what happened to that orange postcard and you don't know where to vote, you can go to the town's website and just click on voting. There's a tab, it's underneath, is it under departments?
Registrar of Voters.
Under Registrar of Voters, there's a tab for voting. You can put your address in there, and you can figure out where you're supposed to vote. And you can also look at your sample ballot so that you know who the candidates are that you are able to be voting for in case your district has changed.
The signs can definitely throw you off.
And it's going to be a
you
beautiful
know,
day. It's going to be
is.
70 degrees.
The
You can
weather.
go out and talk to your neighbors, go for a walk, and
I'm gonna
vote.
put a weather post up on Neighbors and
Good,
Friends
good,
tomorrow
okay.
morning. But let me tell you, this weekend's gonna be borderline beach weather, which I don't ever remember for Election Day weekend.
nice.
And then it's gonna hang in, and then it's gonna start to cool off just a bit on Tuesday. But we're really lucky with the weather. I mean, and weather always drives turnout. There's always a correlation, and having a great day in the 60s, sunny, not windy, not rainy, no threat of rain. I mean, it's going to be, we're going to I think we'll have a great
No,
turnout.
no
because of that, too.
Snowtober storm like we had 11 years ago.
My daughter's she's in Boulder, Colorado right now, and they're having snow squalls right now. And I'm like, I'm not ready.
Yeah, rain
So.
does do a little trouble with our tabulators, so we're glad it's not going to be raining.
Yeah. So anyway, but all right, folks, for Ronnie Newton and Essie Labrot, I'm John Lyons, and we'll see you next time. There we go.